Hey everyone, welcome back to DR Sports and welcome back to the Talking Tactics show. Me and Matisse, I've missed you.
It's been a while since the World Cup.
I've missed you, I've missed the show, I've missed the
We get to sit down now.
We do, you've got seats for us. That's nice.
It's lovely, yeah, it's a lovely little upgrade.
Nice and comfortable. I don't know if this show's always going to be so comfortable with, just the nature of the Premier League and what it can throw up for us. But it's always fun and it's always fascinating to go through. Chelsea won.
Yeah.
It's been a long...
Wow.
Is that your first win since October?
5. I don't know if it's October, it's definitely our first win in 5. We had obviously trips to Brentford, Brighton and Manchester United and Arsenal and Newcastle, so it's been a long time since I felt this way.
Fair enough. Yeah. Look, we've got a lot to get into. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about Arsenal, West Ham. We're going to talk about Brentford, Tottenham to lead things off. Just very quickly, of course, we did do our little World Cup special. So Talking Tactics wasn't gone forever. It was for Premier League. For the Premier League break, but we talked about the England-France game, which I enjoyed. In terms of the World Cup generally, I know everyone would have heard your thoughts, on your channel, Big Six as well, but Messi winning it, I mean, I think largely that was what I hoped for him.
A lot of people wanted.
Yeah, and I think it's funny how that competition was so fascinating in terms of the moments, and it was just a brilliant competition, lots of upsets and stuff. But watching the Premier League already, I'm kind of getting that. I'm seeing some of the quality that I felt was lacking at times in the tournament. Is that just me?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think in the final third, especially in the group stages, there was a lot of good performances in terms of possession, keeping the ball, technically being good in build-up. But then when it comes to the final third, there was lacking a lot of quality. Saudi Arabia is a good example of that, just not being able to finish the chances, not being able to really put the ball in the back of the net when it counts. But I think technically a lot of the smaller teams surprised us. They did a lot better than we expected, and that made for some shocks in the competition, so it was good.
Yeah. Was it a shock that Tottenham went 2-0 down to Brentford? And was it a shock that they pulled it back to get a point? It's like, when you look at the Premier League results, it's like we never took a break. I mean, the results and the performances went exactly as I would have predicted 6-7 weeks ago. Yeah. So let's talk about that game, because Brentford get the goals. They couldn't hold on like they did so valiantly at the Etihad. But listen, 4 points from 6 for them. They'll be happy with that, when you include the City games before the World Cup.
Yeah. I think Brentford, you remind me of that win at the Etihad now of Ivan Toney. Obviously, Ivan Toney scoring again. Brentford, I mean, some of the defending for Tottenham on both the goals really were quite shambolic. Yeah. Now, you can see it in their backline when you see Tanganga. I mean, it's very clear, most Tottenham fans say it, they need to bring in a quality centre-back. I believe they even need 2. I was never really too convinced with the Eric Dyers, the Ben Davies. We saw Romero, obviously, for Argentina in the World Cup. He's probably the one centre-back that they brought in that's actually of the quality and the standard required. When you look across the rest of that defence, Conte really is working with mid-table, really, quality defenders. I'm seeing better quality defenders than other teams in and around the mid-table. So, I think for Tottenham, we spoke about it last time we was on the show in terms of they start off so slow. What is it? Is it mentally? I've seen people even saying that potentially they're doing it on purpose to kind of reserve their energy, for the second half of the season. Well, we're coming up to the second half of the season, so maybe we'll actually start to see that, then reap the rewards. But just very, very, not very switched on in the beginning, and then obviously second half they always want to come out and do the business.
You're absolutely right that we've asked the question, looked at some of the numbers as to, do you remember when we were looking at the goal difference, the goals they score in the first half compared to the second half and things like that. So I wanted to, listen, I was being very rude at a nice Boxing Day dinner with my family when we're all, bless my aunt, she cooked a really lovely lunch, and there I am, sort of with an eye on the Brentford-Tottenham game, but can't help myself. So I was keeping an eye on it, and I was sort of really trying to dip into the numbers to understand a little bit of what kind of went wrong for Tottenham, or what's at least different in the second half. Here we've got, I believe, their passes in the first half, again, not really a lot around. By the way, I should credit, this is from Stats Zone, fantastic iOS app. You should check them out, so I get a lot of my stats. But, not really a lot in and around the penalty area. And if we just compare it to their second half, again, it's just a little more. Even though it's a lot of red, it's a little bit more in this area, it's a little bit more in the wider areas, and it looks a little bit more, at least asking
progressive,
questions.
At least, yeah.
A little bit more progressive, a little bit more asking at least questions of Brentford. I looked at their shots as well. I mean, 2 from outside the box, or 3. I think Gray must have been blocked. Yeah. 1 inside the box. You compare to what they did in the second half, far more, and of course 2 goals. That happened to be the exact same sort of distance, trajectory and angle for each one, although very different goals from Højbjerg and Harry Kane, a superb header from Harry Kane. Yeah. But just asking more questions of them. And I just can't understand why that might be, because when I look at these numbers here that I pulled together, their first and second half. 251 passes in the first half to 260. 200, very similar.
Yeah.
206 completed passes to 212, but 92 attacking third attempted passes to 59, with 64 of them completed to 43. So I'm looking at them going, but it's not even like you can run the narrative necessarily that, well, Brentford had more of the ball and then they wanted to protect their lead, so they conceded possession, and then Tottenham had the impetus to try play because they've obviously got to try and scrap to get something from the game. They've got quite a lot of the ball.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand what happens in the second half, unless it's just pure panic, that, sets them into having causing them so much more trouble in terms of shots in the area, passes into the area, and as we can see, getting into the final third a lot more.
It's been a pattern of their whole season. I don't think anybody really has the answers for it, especially Antonio Conte, because if he did, it wouldn't keep happening.
Yeah.
They've been doing this all season, and they've been doing it even in the Champions League as well. Going behind, and like you're saying, regardless of whether they got possession or they don't have possession, they just don't seem to have that attacking impetus and that real knack for, just like you're saying with the attacking third passes, just punching it in between the lines, a little bit more bravery.
Yeah.
And again, does it speak to the fact that they don't really have any tempo dictators in their team in terms of being able to control games?
Yeah.
In terms of, look at the midfield, you've got Bentancur, you've got Højbjerg, you've got Skip. These guys are all, very meticulous in their off-the-ball work. They actually are starting to chip in with goals, Højbjerg, Bentancur, but none of them are controllers. None of them are dictating the tempo. None of them are able to kind of see that a game is going against them, the tide is going against them in terms of maybe they're lacking control, or they're starting to become under the cosh, and they're not able to deal with that situation and really put their stamp on it. So I'm not really sure what it is to really nail it, but that midfield, I still feel like there needs to be just another person in there who's slightly different to the options that they have. And it might actually start to change the way that games are panning out. Even if it's not a creator, you see like Jorginho's, Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
The way that they dictate tempo, the way that they take control of games and take you through 15, 20-minute spells when you're not exactly maybe, at your best.
Yeah.
I feel like Tottenham maybe could do with that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the massive difference that Casemiro has made, for example, in Man United since he's arrived. We're going to talk about him at Man United towards the end of the show, but you're right, they clearly need something more in that midfield area. But I can't help but look at that Tottenham side and think, even without that, there's enough to show a bit more kind of oomph enough in the first half of games, at least. And at least if you're not going to be particularly exciting on the eye and creating no chance in the first half, at least be defensively solid. And I know, obviously, we could talk about midfielders, right? You mentioned there Jorginho. We've seen Casemiro, what he's done at Man United recently. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But I think it's like, I don't really know. And apologies, Tottenham fans. I know you're probably listening to this thinking, all right, you're an Arsenal fan, you're trying to stick the knife in. I'm not. But I don't know what it is that's like their key thing at the moment. Like, okay, they're not particularly exciting going forward, but they're really solid at the back. Or, okay, they're leaking loads of goals, but they're scoring loads as well. You can normally point to something. I just think they're kind of a team that you can see the ingredients are there to be very solid and competitive at pretty much any level. But it just almost takes the panic button for them to get going.
Yeah.
And I find that very strange. One of the players I find very strange as well is Heung-min Son, because, sorry, Arsenal fans, I rate him really highly. Like, I think, well, at least I have done the last 5-6 seasons he's been in the Premier League. He's that kind of player, and there's very few of them that genuinely terrify me when they get the ball, and he was one of them for a long, long time. And Tottenham fans, I think, are really getting to a point where they're struggling to get behind him as they were for so long. I mean, what do you make of his performance?
He's been in shocking form, really, this season. I can only point to maybe 1 or 2 games where I've been pretty impressed with him in terms of him actually being back to or near enough back to his best. In the World Cup, again, wasn't great either, not a standout. So I'm not sure what's going on with him. I think, obviously, he's always been known as a goal scorer. He's been jousting for the Golden Boot, both-footed, can shoot. Strikes me again as one of those type of Liverpool forwards where you put the ball in behind, you rely upon him to finish and job done. He's not ever been that guy in terms of, dropping deep and being able to create, and take on 2 or 3 men and then suddenly do something out of nothing. He's always been kind of the guy that runs in beyond Harry Kane and finishes, or cuts in either side and slaps it in the top corner.
Yeah.
But he's never had like that creative spark to him where if he's not scoring, you can say, okay, Son is gonna gonna create a load of chances, out of nothing, or he's gonna. He's a strange player because I do also rate him as well. I think when you're both footed like that and you're able to go both ways, it makes you extremely unpredictable. But he just hasn't turned up this season. I'm not sure really where that comes from because he's been pretty consistent with the numbers. Obviously, he does have his purple patches. People have always accused him of that and they've said, listen, Son's gone missing for a period and then he obviously comes back. But this season is as bad as I've seen him. Yeah. He has not been at this level since he started playing.
I agree, and this is from FBref, his percentile rankings. I know people like to look at these a lot. I just went for the ones that I thought looked good, and I've gone for ones that don't look so good. So he's still up there for having shots on target, expected goals, expected assists. I think anything above 70 is ranking at least pretty well in the top 30%. Key passes and the number of crosses is up there, shot creating actions, and progressive passes received. He's getting the ball a lot. He's expected to do things in this Tottenham team. But pass completion, passes into final third, passes into the penalty area, progressive passes himself, through balls. These are more creative numbers that you look at for a 10, for example.
Dribbles completed as well as a winger.
Dribbles completed is low, and touches in the attacking penalty area is low as well. And the dribbles completed one is particularly worrying, I think. Yeah. But the others, I wouldn't say you'd necessarily blame him because that's not the thing he's there to do.
That just tells me he's not someone that drops deep. Right. You don't want him dropping deep and trying to play the ball into people. He's the guy that is on the end of things, and then maybe for the key passes and the crosses, he's dragging it back or he's cutting it back across if he's going to be assisting, but he's not the person who's going to play the ball like a attacking midfielder and play it in behind or anything like that.
I just think he's a winger that would benefit so much from the kind of systems we see Liverpool playing right now, City, dare I say Arsenal, don't hate on me Tottenham fans. But what I mean by that is like you watch their wingers and when they get the ball out wide, it's, well, there's someone overlapping, there's someone underlapping, they can come back inside, the space opens up for them to attack. It feels like there's a lot of onus on him to finish moves, but also because of a lack of number 10, sometimes he is going to have to drop deep and make things happen. Maybe that doesn't come to him naturally either. So I don't know, it's a weird one. Tottenham fans, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section, what is happening with Heung-min Son, because it's a strange one for me, and I think it's going to be ultimately, for a 3-4-3 to work, you need your wing-backs to be delivering, but you need that front three of Kulusevski, Son and Kane to be in the kind of form they were at the end of last season, because a lot of their attacking power is going to filter through them, of course. It's not going to be midfielders chipping with goals like Bentancur has from set pieces. So, I don't know. Is that fair analysis? You guys let us know. But we'll see with Tottenham. We'll see. Who's their next game? I can't remember who their next game is. I think it's a home game, but we'll of course, cover it here after that. Let's talk about your side, Chelsea, who went on and returned to winning ways with a win against Bournemouth, a 4-3-3. Reece James returned. Real shame that he's got injured, and I mean that sincerely, by the way, because you never want to see a player get injured, and when you've had a long period out, you miss a World Cup, and then you get it again. It must be so frustrating for him. And Zakaria coming into the midfield three with Mount. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Chelsea, at least with Potter in this match, they actually just put people in positions and zones that they're strong in. Pulisic is, for me, best off the left wing. We've seen Manchester City fans talk about Sterling at the right wing and how creative he can be, and we saw that with the first goal. He puts in a really good ball.
I thought he was really good
off the right flank. He got man the match. I think it was between him, Mason, and Kai Havertz. Anyone could have got it, but Sterling was brilliant. I found myself saying it repeatedly. Sterling's having a great game. And what was so great about Sterling is it was very similar to Man City, where he was not having to, as he has at times for Chelsea, drop deep, back to goal in sometimes central areas or off the left and kind of, hold the ball up and flick it around, which he can do. He's actually pretty decent at receiving the ball in tight spaces. But he was able to just constantly run in behind, just so often for Chelsea, and Kai Havertz and Mason Mount were picking him out with balls over the top, whether it be clipped over the top or along the ground. Even Thiago Silva's passing range was shown as he recovered from that earlier injury as well. So Sterling was able to be an off-the-ball runner and get himself into dangerous positions. That's how he got the assist for Kai Havertz when he put it across the box, and he was just genuinely just a pleasure to watch. Other standouts would have been Kai Havertz and Mason Mount as well. They have come under a lot of criticism, and rightly so, for their performances this season. They haven't been good. I, coming into this game, questioned them massively. They need to step up. Kai Havertz had to score. He's playing up front. Yes, he's not a traditional striker. He's maybe someone that's more of maybe a Firmino. He wants to drop in between the lines, or he wants to run the channels. Doesn't matter. Even if you're a striker like Gabriel Jesus, you can do your hard work and get your credit for assisting and creating or whatever. You still need to score some goals. And thankfully, he did get the goal, but his hard work was clear to see throughout the whole game. I think he had more clearances than any Chelsea defender combined. The guy was literally just clearing, tracking back, doing everything you need to do off the ball, as well as putting the ball in the back of there. And Mason Mount, this guy, he causes such chaos amongst the community because he can have a stinker, but when he plays at his best, and it is Bournemouth, so we have to take that with a pinch of salt. It's a pinch of salt performance, and he does need to do it against the top teams as well in the Premier League. But he was brilliant. He was dropping deep, he was spraying the ball around, composed. Havertz for the Mason Mount goal as well, just letting time stand still, picking him out, 25 yards out, and Mason just slaps it into the bottom corner. But also, whenever he was receiving the ball, his awareness was much better. He wasn't rushing things, he was scanning, picking people out, creating opportunities. I think he had 3 big chances created. Just a joy to watch. So for once, I'm coming here speaking and saying that Chelsea's attack was actually good.
I really like Mason Mount, and I understand where the criticism comes from, but I like a player who can make the run and beyond that. I think what we saw Dele Alli do for many years at Tottenham, for example, but I think he's also got a lot more finesse on the ball than perhaps he's given credit for sometimes, and we saw that in his goal.
Yeah.
But I think in a midfield 3, he's got the energy and work rate, and I think he's got enough finesse and just enough strength and all that to kind of actually master, a position in this midfield where you've got Jorginho, the tempo setter in midfield. Zakaria, well, I'm no expert on him, adds as presence, having been a DM before as well, and understands his defensive duties.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice balance to Chelsea's midfield 3. Of course, Kovacic can come in for any one of those 3, and he's still a fantastic player as well.
Yeah.
And with Sterling and Pulisic, I mean, isn't it funny how, put players in their best positions and see what they can do? And that Sterling sort of out to in run, that's just vintage Man City. We saw it, in the 17-18 season so often with Sane on the other flank. So to see him get that kind of assist, that is, Sterling's the master of that run and that sort of low cross into the box. So I'm not surprised that this team went out and just made it look very comfortable against Bournemouth. And I wonder whether come City, which I know is a game coming for you very soon, whether Potter's going to, because we know game by game he
changes it up.
He changes it up.
I would avoid doing that.
I would too, yeah.
Considering the injuries that Chelsea have at the moment, I would avoid switching things up too much. I thought that there was clear balance in this team. Pulisic wasn't as good as Sterling, but he still, for me, made a positive impact. He could have had a goal that was chalked off. He could have won a penalty. And his role was slightly different to Sterling. He was dropping a lot deeper, having to receive the ball under a lot of stress from opponents and turn and swivel and be a little bit deeper in terms of that. And obviously on this side, when you've got someone like Mason Mount, he's obviously a lot more attacking than Zakaria, so it allowed Sterling to get further forward. Like I said, with Kai punching the ball over the top as well. Obviously, James's injury is a massive miss. Going forward, I mean, we saw when James was on the pitch, Chelsea had 1 shot against them. When he came off, it was 8. Now, of course, their Bournemouth were trying to get back into the game. Solanke more, they were trying to get something out of it. Yeah. But Chelsea just don't look the same when Reece James is not on the pitch, and he's now out for 4 to 6 weeks again. So they're going to need to bring in a right back in January, I think.
Things looking up for Chelsea. Really fascinated to see how you do against Man City soon. And listen, the way things are going for Arsenal, I really need you to take points off them.
Yeah.
But
and before we wrap up as well, Jorginho recovered the ball more than any other player as well, which was interesting to see because he gets a lot of criticism. But with Zakaria in there, it was like a nice balance of some P&P and recovery next to someone that's obviously a lot less, P&P, and he's a lot more technical.
The best I've seen of Jorginho was actually at the Euros. Well, of course. So yes, that's a good point. I forgot about that. But also at the Euros when he had Locatelli next to him, who does have that energy, that box-to-box running. And I can't remember who the other player was.
Verratti as well.
Verratti. Yeah, they had Verratti, Barella.
And then obviously for Chelsea, his best form's probably come with Kante. So he kind of does really well with someone with some P&P. It makes sense. It balances him out. He's been linked with Newcastle today. Imagine if he was to go in there with Bruno Guimaraes. Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton for the rest of the season in January. That's a lot of P&P there.
That would be very fascinating to see how he does. Let's talk about Newcastle, because I really wanted to have a little look at where's the Newcastle first goal?
There it is.
Oh, there we go, the Newcastle pen. I'm going to say something, and I mean no offence to any Newcastle fan when I say this. I actually mean it as total bit of compliment to Eddie Howe. When I look at that starting 11, I'm not blown away by it at all.
You shouldn't be.
And I know that it's now going to go and beat Arsenal now that I've said that. Of course, we've got them coming up early Jan. But I just look at that team, I'm like, well, Joe Linton left wing. Well, he kind of, resurgence as a midfielder, came in as a striker. Almiron as a kind of wide player. Okay, he's probably the only one that I see really as a top player in his right position. Wood leading the line, third choice striker. Gamara's brilliant, but then Longstaff and Willock. Byrne at left back, so you've not exactly got like a marauding up and down fullback. So I'm looking at it like, why do they look so cutting and intricate and like direct in the final third? So I look at this bit where Amate fouls Joe Linton for the penalty, and it's the players they've all got in the box. Willock's making the run beyond Joe Linton. Wood's in there already. Almiron's waiting for it. They've got Guimaraes and Longstaff on the end of it. This comes from basically, I think it was Fass messing around with it, and then they kind of pass or two later and they're in. I mean, it's a really poor challenge from Amate, but it's like, they've got numbers in the box, okay. And then look at their second goal. And again, just the positioning of it. When Guimaraes plays that pass again, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all making the run into the box. Sometimes pace is one thing, but actually just intent and numbers. Desire and a game plan of, right, we've won this ball back, or Guimaraes back to get the ball. That's the trigger. Let's all get into the box. Sometimes just that is enough to cause defenders problems. And I think Newcastle undoubtedly have quality. I'm not denying that for 1 second. Eddie Howe's a fantastic manager, but their desire and the feel-good factor and just
there's no
their
passengers.
commitment.
There's no passengers.
Absolutely not.
Almiron and Joe Linton, what I noticed was that they, as good as they are going forward, obviously Joe Linton's been playing in midfield. Like you said, if he's playing left wing, he's going to naturally tuck in and help out Willock and Longstaff and Guimaraes and make it a 4. But they will track back their fullbacks and they will go up and down constantly. Almiron tracking back all the time to help out Trippier. Joe Linton doing the same for Burns. So they are relentless up and down. Kind of like an old-fashioned Leicester 4-4-2 with O'Brien and Morris. They are just relentless. So they got the work rate there. And then this guy here, Guimaraes. Now, he's not Casemiro because he can be a little bit further forward than Casemiro. But if he's doing that Casemiro role for Newcastle at times, he's just, which he is in all these examples, he's able to just sit there and he's got the ability, passing-wise vision, like Casemiro does, to pick out people in the areas that you're talking about and really punch the ball in between the lines. He's got the PMP to cover all of the zones and see everything in front of him and manage situations. He's got everything. I watch him and I just think to myself, this guy is just too good. He really is the complete midfielder. There's nothing he can't do. He's press resistant, good in tight spaces. He can switch plays, brilliant on the ball. He can score a goal if you need it as well. There's nothing missing from his game. And when you've got someone like that you can kind of build your foundation from in midfield, which a lot of teams party for Arsenal now, that's been massive. Casemiro for Manchester United, Rodri for Man City. When you've got someone that you can hang your hat on that will deal with 9 out of 10 situations most of the time, and the only time really they're ever going to get done is it's going to have to be something insane, because what can they not handle? They've got pace, they've got power, all these things. It just gives you such a base and a confidence to build off and then say you're going to start committing these numbers, because not only will they all get back, but they all know that he can deal with nine problems out of 10.
That's a really good point. It's easy to commit going forward when you know what you're leaving behind. And I think that is a really good point.
Because none of these are, look at the names. It's Longstaff, it's Willock.
I know.
If you were to take some of these players out, no disrespect to them, and put them in Aston Villa, you'd second place all the way down to wherever Villa are in the table, you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
No,
it's literally just, it's great coaching, honestly, from Eddie Howe, what he's been able to do with this team. This team that was second from bottom at this stage last season are now second in the league. It's ridiculous. And they haven't blown everybody away. We're going to talk about finances in a minute. From West Ham. Yeah, of course, Newcastle spent some money last January. No St. Maximin in his team. No Alexander Isak. No Callum Wilson. There's a lot of players missing. They've spanked Leicester. No problem. Moved on with their day.
Talent is nothing without hard work, but the talent is coming through. And like you said, that Guimaraes pass and just the way Newcastle were playing at times, you're like, these are very, very good players who are either A, playing beyond their level. I'm not saying that's what it is. B, showing us a level we didn't think they had, and therefore great credit to them and Eddie Howe for getting them to their potential. But also I think they're just enjoying their football and they're just and thriving. They picked up right where they left off, and credit to them. So I've got to ask, top 4 race, title race, which one is it for you?
Top 4 for me. I won't say title, purely because if these names win a title, not even Joe Linton, if some of these names in this team win a title...
I feel like we're being so rude.
We're so rude, but it's so true. It's what everybody's thinking, and nobody wants to say. Let's be real about this.
I don't mean to be... I'm using it to credit how.
Yeah, we are crediting, but if they win a title over Manchester City, which is their competition, and Arsenal as well, but especially Manchester City, who are the favourites still for me, with Haaland, with De Bruyne, with Bernardo Silva, with Gundogan, if these guys win it, it will be similar to what Leicester did, in my opinion. I think you put what Newcastle were doing, if they were to win the league, you put that alongside Leicester. No one should be sitting there saying, this is all part of the plan, this is what we expect. I expected this team to be knocking on the door for Conference League. Knocking on the door.
But I agree, Longstaff, wasn't really thought of, a year or two ago. Willock, couldn't make it really. He got lots of minutes at Arsenal, fair play to him. He got further than most youngsters, but I get it. Wood came from Burnley. Joe Linton was written off. Almiron was being laughed at by Jack Grealish.
Yeah. Only Ramirez is really in there. Trippier.
But even Trippier was left Spurs as not, all right, he wasn't the answer. Does brilliantly at Atletico Madrid. Dan Burn came from Brighton.
Nick Pope, again, usually battling bottom 5. When you go through individually that team, Dan Burn, was he starting at Brighton, was he? I don't think he was.
He was getting minutes at Brighton, but not that much. No, I think he was.
Was he starting?
Left centre-back, left back. But you know what? Someone tweeted, they're in their Bellamy Adebayor phase, and they're second. I was like, that is fair.
Yeah, exactly,
Fair, really fair play.
I wouldn't even push them that far down the line. I'd say that they're in their Joe phase. They're in their Joe phase right now, and they're afroing up the place.
Guys, we honestly, any Newcastle fans watching it, first, thank you for watching. mean no disrespect whatsoever. I want to praise how brilliant Eddie Howe's been. I really, really do. And how he's getting so much out of these players. And when we know the finances that are to come for Newcastle, the investment they've already made in Good Moraes and Alexander Isak, it's only exciting times for them. It really, really is. So
I hope they win it. I hope they win it because that would be very good for me walking around London. 100%.
No, I know it will. I know it will. Let's talk about that team. Let's talk about Arsenal and West Ham. Now, this is a really interesting game because we obviously had Eddie Nketiah leading the line over Gabby Jesus. That was a big thing that people were looking at tactically. We had Saliba return, looked a little rusty. But other than that, pretty much the same team. Obviously, Kieran Tierney for Zinchenko is another big one. So what you essentially had was the... this is what happens when you make lots of stuff. You lose all. You had this kind of thing a lot of the time. You had Tierney tucking. Anyone who's watched Tactical Insight on AFTV, apologies for some of the slight repeat content. But what you normally have is Tierney filling in for Zinchenko. We saw a lot of this though. Tierney overlapping, Xhaka dropping deep, Martinelli, who's been talked as a future 9. So you still have the 3-2-5, but slight difference. I felt that we lost the Martinelli running at Soufal, just causing complete havoc at fullback. So we see that in the second goal when he gets the ball, quick touch onto his left foot, goal. I felt we lost that a little bit, but Arsenal largely were able to pretty much play with the same tempo, same intensity, pick up where they left off. And Eddie Nketiah, huge credit to them because he came in to the team, and I don't actually think Arsenal's level dropped barely, if at all. You could say Jesus maybe would have had a little bit more link-up and intricacy in the final third, but I have to ask this, I know he's capable of it, does he spin Kerrer like, I was trying to touch
Unbelievable.
that, like Eddie does, and put it in the back of the net?
Yeah.
You know, so fair play, I thought Eddie did really well.
That goal was really, really impressive. Like, it should not be understated from the first moment where he, first of all, spins him the wrong way, sends him, and then spins him the other way and goes round him. Everything from receiving the ball to the finish, it's a proper striker's goal. Every number 9 will look at that goal and say, that's my type of goal. You know, it wasn't a long ranger, it wasn't a bicycle kick, it wasn't a scorpion kick, but it's exactly what you need to do up front for Arsenal. You need to be able to do things like that. You're going to receive the ball in tight spaces, you're going to be man-marked, you're going to be in the box, and all the chance creation is done, really, most of the time. Obviously, Jesus is helping out with that as well, but I feel like with someone like Odegaard, who was ridiculously good in this game, alongside with Saka, this chemistry over here is just... is something very special. Really, really special. They both are, and we cannot forget Ben White. Another ridiculous performance as well. This whole right-hand side, this triangle is just seamless. They know exactly where each other are going to be. They love to just do their little 1-2s, intricate plays. They have no problem, underlapping, overlapping. They're just all comfortable. The chemistry, I would not be surprised in training if these three are not inseparable. Just constantly talking to each other, constantly training and working on new moves. Because it is really seamless and it's something that can only be done on the training ground, what they do. And then Nketiah, like I said, with that goal, it's good for his confidence. I think, will he be enough for the rest of the season? Personally, I don't even think numerically you can have only Nketiah. If Jesus is out for 3 months, you still need to bring in a striker. But brilliant start for him, and maybe the stress will be relieved against the smaller teams, and even West Ham are in horrid form under Moyes. But against those big games, Manchester City, that will be interesting to see if Nketiah can step up in those moments.
You're so right about this right-hand side because, sometimes you see Odegaard pulls wide, stretch the pitch, and Saka's then looking for that underlap, or maybe Ben White is. Sometimes there you've got Odegaard will then sit to dictate. Saka's looking for that run, and it's Ben White who goes around the other side. I mean, the understanding between that side is a brilliant. And listen, you see it on the left too, but you're right. That was a side that really started to take the game by the scruff of the neck in the West Ham game. And when they win the ball back, then Saka wins it off Rice, does well. And then it comes to the left-hand side with the games and the pitch is sort of inevitably opened up for Martinelli. So well done, Arsenal. But we do have to talk a little bit about West Ham. Here's a list of big money signings. Got Paqueta in there. Don't know why he's the only player who I've put his full name. But you got Paqueta there, £37 million he came in for. Scamacca, 31 million. This is looking about the last 4 or 5 transfer windows. Agard for 30 million, Cornet 17, Zuma 30, Vlasic 26, Benrahma 20, Haller 44, Fornals 24, Bowen 19, Anderson 33, Diop 22, Yarmolenko 17. Why am I showing you this? Because I listened to Nicky speak brilliantly, not only on West Ham Fan TV, but also on the Roundup show here on DR Sports with you and Robbie about why, David Moyes' form. And now, of course, the question is being asked about David Moyes and whether it's time to move on. I have to be really, really, really honest. I'm normally one for looking at what he's done in the 2 previous seasons and saying, no, give him time. He's only just got these players and it can be difficult. He's earned that time. I think they'd be right to move on and try and upgrade for a manager who is going to get a little bit more out of your Scamacas, your Paquetas, your Cornets, your Benrahmas and stuff, because they got some real technicians. I don't know if you're going to find many teams that have as many technicians in the team as them when you include Fornal as well, when you include, Rice, of course, at the base of midfield. And I just think they've got some real talent and a manager could get a lot out of that.
If you give this team to Eddie Howe, what is he doing with this team? What is he doing with this team? I mean, there is no excuse for why West Ham are in the predicament they're in. They have a lot of players that are very, very good that I rate. Zuma played for Chelsea for a number of years, quality centre-back. Aguerd has had a ridiculous World Cup. He's now back. Didn't really play too much before the World Cup, few injuries. He looks really, really solid. Scamacca was wanted by PSG. Quality player. Looks like he can do a bit of everything. Again, just a really good modern-day forward that I think, if he was actually in a goal-scoring pattern of form, I think when you look at his overall game and his general play, I think a lot of top teams would actually look at him and say, you know what, we could do with him. Chelsea, he would get into our starting 11 up front if Kai is inconsistent, which he has been, obviously, great performance, but generally speaking. Manchester United up front, Martial injury-prone. He would probably do a great job for them. Paqueta starts for Brazil. I wasn't impressed with his World Cup, but I still think there's a very, very good player in there. Cornet was brilliant for Burnley. Vlasic, I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, he's left, I think. Since.
Anderson, not sure what happened there. Horler has been really good at Ajax from what I've seen as well. Bowen, great season last year, fallen off like a cliff this season. Benrahma was brilliant at Brentford in the Championship before he came up as well.
And he's playing brilliantly now against West Ham fans. And Bowen
Moyes doesn't seem to like him. No. He doesn't, because he keeps sending little digs his way, taking him off, etc. A lot of West Ham fans aren't happy about it. This is another technical play. There's a lot in there, and that's not even talking about Declan Rice, who's already in the team, etc. So,
and let's give him. I mean, they did finish 7th last season, 6th the year before, and they were on a real upward trajectory. And fair play. Like, I'm not trying to say look what they've spent. It's all wasted. I'm not saying, but I'm trying to point out that they have signed some real quality and spent quite a lot of money. And I think David Moyes has just never. While I actually really like the guy, and I think he conducts himself well largely, and I think he's done very well to stabilise West Ham and then get a very, very respectable level of performance out of them for a prolonged period of time. But I just think they're now entering a phase where strike while the iron's hot. You've got these players.
There's a moving on into another time period.
I think
David Moyes is very good at getting a team playing the way he knows football. Fellaini at Everton brings him to Manchester United. West Ham now are bringing in more technically sound players, not going so direct to Antonio always and etc. And that's where he struggles. And then we saw that at Manchester United, bigger stage, demand to play a certain way. He's not really cut out for it. He just kept going with Fellaini constantly. That's the way he wants to kind of play football. Or at least that's him at his strengths. That's him at his strengths. He's working against the grain, trying to play any other way. That's not what he's used to. It's not what he's used to coaching. If you was to give this team to, say, a Pochettino, that would mirror up a lot better with who they've signed, who the manager is, put them together. It makes a lot more sense. Yeah. And I think West Ham, I don't know if these are his signings, but for the players that he's brought in, they don't really look like David Moyes players. Cornet as well, brilliant at Burnley, and hasn't really done too much as of yet.
Yeah, I think he's got them over the 3 years he's been there, around the same time as Arteta. I think he has got them playing really good football at times, but largely I just don't think that's his philosophy. I don't think that's his blueprint, and the money they're spending, I think they're a manager that they can get a lot. But I respect him, and we'll see what they do there. We're pretty much going to round it off there. Question on Man United and Casemiro. Don't hate Man United. I actually come in peace, United fans, when I ask this.
Unbelievable player.
Best defensive midfielder in the league was getting thrown around.
Yep.
I know you probably feel that. I know a lot of other people probably feel that. Why did I say United fans don't get on to me when I say this? I think I've got a little bit of a boy who cried wolf thing with United fans, which is that I have so much respect for what Ten Hag's doing and the rebuild and everything. And United, I think, are on a fantastic trajectory already. It's actually happening quite quickly for them. But it's like Lisandro Martinez 2 months in. Varane and him, best centre-back partnership in the league. Yeah. So when I do hear one that's a legitimate Casemiro best DM in the league, I immediately go, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But
it's actually legit.
What an acquisition he's been for them.
He's shown at Real Madrid. You don't stay in a Real Madrid midfield three for that length of time, winning back-to-back Champions Leagues, back-to-back, and not be worth your salt. And he's come into this Man United team. Yeah, he had maybe 3-4 games where he struggled. That's normal. He's acclimatising. Ever since he's settled down, he's been ridiculous. Great on the ball, for Brazil, brilliant on the ball as well.
You mentioned it at what World Cup he was having in possession as well for Brazil.
Yeah, first game I watched from Brazil, I wasn't actually that impressed with most of their team, Paqueta being one of them, Rafinha as well. But Casemiro was ridiculous on the ball, the way that he's able to play the ball in between the lines, spray it about, and then obviously in terms of protecting the back four, there's not many better. You could say Rodri as well alongside. They will have their debates in Manchester who's the better DM. I don't really mind. I think both of them are excellent. But Casemiro is definitely a shout. If you would call him the best defensive midfielder in the league, you would not be speaking out of turn at all. The guy he's everything you want in that position.
I still lean towards Rodri. But we are blessed with sixes, and you were talking about Gamara's there. And I've got to say, I don't think Partey's far off the top guys. I think he's been immense for Arsenal. So, look, fair play United. They picked up where they left off, and that's obviously when you include the Carabao Cup win now, that's 5 goals, I think, a couple clean sheets, and they've started well. So it'll be interesting to see how they do on the road, because they ended just before the World Cup with a 2-1 win against Fulham, last minute goal from Garnacho. So we'll keep an eye on Man United, especially to see what they do in January, because they need forwards. They've missed out on Gakpo now, so we'll see what happens there. Brighton beat Southampton 3-1. A bit of luck on the first couple goals, and actually they were outshot in the game. But Solly March with, I thought, a really good performance in terms of at least the highlights looked good. But he looks like he's got that Mahrez-esqueness about them in the way he can sort of drop a shoulder, whip a little ball into the box. But then that goal as well, sublime.
Shot on him as well.
Happy, great strike. I mean, happy for him because he's been at Brighton a long, long time. And he's always been a player that whenever I watch him, I'm like, always causing us trouble here. But I never really think of him as, let's go pick him up or whatever, that kind of. But, fair play to him, happy for him. And Fulham got the win at Palace. So lots going on in the Premier League. And Liverpool won, they kept things going.
Yeah.
This has been a long show as it is, guys. But
Gakpo can be registered, I think, next Monday. He'll be able to play. So already he'll be back in. Yeah. So obviously Diaz is out injured, so that's the left wing kind of sorted because they have missed him massively. Jota's always out as well. So already the January transfer window is kicking off.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. I think maybe I wonder if there's a talking tactics to be done around some of these signings at some point. If you're up for it, we'll make that happen. You let us know in the comment section below if you do want to see some transfer-related talking tactics show. But as always, Matisse, a massive, massive thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure. Chelsea got their win. Arsenal got their win. Newcastle. Listen, people aren't talking about top four anymore. People are talking about the title. Is that what it's going to be for them? Let's have a little look. Man City, of course, play tonight, so we'll keep an eye on that. And we'll be back with the talking tactics in the new year to reflect on the next round of Premier League games. But as always, a big thanks for joining us. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Get in the comment section with your thoughts on everything. And we'll see you on the next one. Check out all the content on DR Sports as well.